Welcome to Beyond Incredible. I'm Ashley Nicole, and today we are broadcasting live from the Downtown Windsor Business Accelerator located at 720 Olette Ave. Today we are in the BizX Lounge. I've got my co-host, Shay Rachelle, with me. I've got Enver back. Enver Villazimar. Villazimar. Oh, sorry. And then I've got Cindy Brenner here, and she is with the labor movement with the local 200 Unifor.
Hi.
So we're going to talk about the election that just happened. You were on previously. We were talking about the upcoming election, why it was important to vote, why it was important to vote for your rights, what it meant for your union in particular, the Ontario Secondary School Federation, Teachers Federations for union, right? So today we have some more questions. First off, how was voting? Did you vote? You obviously voted.
I definitely voted. I took my entire family to vote.
Yeah,
we took a selfie outside of the
Hey.
station. It was something our union had done. We asked members, when you go to vote, go outside the polling station and take a picture. And so we have all this collage of pictures.
Oh, perfect.
What did you hashtag it?
We didn't tweet them. We just put them on our internal Facebook pages.
Awesome. We'll
okay.
Those then.
Yeah.
Good practice for those kids.
Yep.
Good
And I've got some pictures up on the side of that I'll show a little later on.
Awesome.
Bringing
And
them up right.
Shay, you didn't vote. I hear you didn't vote.
My family was here,
right?
so I'm blaming on you, Mom.
Cindy, did you vote?
Are you kidding me?
Of
I don't
course
miss
you
it. I
voted.
mean, if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, and if that individual didn't get into the party that you totally have faith in, didn't get in, then you have no qualms about it and nobody to call the next day. So
Absolutely.
shame on non-voters. We're going to have to get you out next
I'm
year,
new
drag
too.
you out.
I'm
You know
new
what?
to Ontario,
I voted.
so it's a lot to
it was
research.
about a block away from my house, so I had no excuse
Yeah.
but to be there. It was at my daughter's school. It started at 8 a.m. I think it started or something like that. So as soon as I dropped her off, I went in and voted. Like, you know.
Is that the first time you voted, or is it you?
No, I've been
Polls are
voting
open
since
quite
I
a
was
bit.
18.
There's no, they're open and they're convenient for people to come in before, during. So
absolutely, it's always important. It's always important. So let's start off with some questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So what was the result of the elections province-wide?
Okay, cue Alex there. We've got some slides I brought here.
Oh, you're going to show us some statistics.
Some numbers.
Some numbers.
Yep. Yep, slide one. Slide two, actually. That's the intro. That's the
hello.
Grabber.
There we go.
So we had 52.1% voter turnout in general, which means that 47.9% of the people didn't even vote, which is it's actually an increase from the last election, which was 49%, which was the worst in Ontario history. So it was a slight increase, but still generally the major trend, you could say, is people not voting.
Yeah.
You want to go back up to that slide there for a second, Alex?
So that's, you say, in Ontario history, last year was the worst.
Sorry, 2011. Yeah, so 2011 was the worst.
I was actually looking at the statistics last night, like voters and stuff like that, and in 1891 there was a huge drop in voting. So that might be something to check out. That's Canadian history, though, not Ontario.
So it was a drop from the year before?
It was like major drop, like major drop.
Right.
By like a lot of people, you know. So if you're looking at a thing, here I'm going to draw it. If you're looking at a thing, the drop was like that, and then it goes back up, right? you know.
I wonder what it was. I mean, there was periods of time when, unless you were white and owned property, you weren't allowed to vote.
Or if you were a man, you couldn't
vote.
vote.
First Nations, you couldn't vote. So those were the times when the voting population was much smaller, for sure.
Absolutely.
Was there a stat on the age groups that you found? Have they done?
They haven't broken that down, but generally it's the 18 to 25 age group that doesn't vote. But as you can see, it's still almost half the population, so that it's over and above that young group that also isn't voting. But the youth 18 to 25 are the majority that don't vote. It was called right when university is finishing, and when, so in terms of students being in one place to kind of discuss together how to vote, that couldn't really happen. So the timing was very bad. If they call it
the most important people that needed to vote too. You know what I mean? Because like this is education that's at cost too. Like the more the political things change, the more education costs, So you think that they would want something to do with that.
Well, it shows that there's some things that have fallen, the bottom's fallen. Somebody's dropped the ball there too, right? To get in there and educate, and at least we have a targeted area where you can go in there and, ask the questions and see what's more convenient. At least we have a focus on next election, maybe to where our weaknesses were at.
Absolutely.
So that's something to shoot for.
Yeah. Can we go to the next slide there, Alex? So it'll be slide 3. Yeah. So in terms of like the seats and what actually happened, so the Liberals got 58 seats, so they went up 9 seats across the province. Remember last show we were saying they had to get that 54.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
The PCs went from 37 to 28, so they dropped by 9. And the NDP stayed where they were at 21. Next slide. Like
so they stayed where they were, eh? It's like civics.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No problem. So the Liberals, in terms of votes, got 1,862,907, which is only 20% of eligible voters. So they have a majority now, power for 4 years, with only 20% of
only 20%. And you know what I was wondering now last night, actually, we were having a discussion about that, how much the percent was that actually voted for Liberals. So 20%, eh?
So the majority didn't vote Liberal. Either voted for another party and their program or didn't vote. So
because the percentages were lower and their percentage was higher, that's why they're...
And plus because they got their increases in ridings where they ended up winning by, say, a few votes or a big number of votes, then you can take power. So the way the political system works, even with a small change in vote, you can take full power because it's winner take all in a riding.
Right.
Next slide, Alex. Getting some work today. So also, just as a kind of visual, that's all the parties who ran in the election. And there was also a category in the middle there, the bigger cell, that's for independent. So you had a lot of other parties that also ran and participated in the election. Their percentages are smaller, but usually it never gets reported. So this was just to show that they ran in different ridings. They didn't run in all the ridings across the country, but they did run.
Now, do the Green Party still run?
Green Party did run. They ran a candidate in every riding.
Okay, because I don't recall seeing any in Windsor, any Green Party signs in Windsor. But I know in Stratford that they used to be everywhere in Stratford.
Yep.
You know, it's also a smaller community, 30,000 people. But I recall seeing a lot of Green Party signs in Stratford when I was growing up. So I didn't know if they were still a party or what.
I think in Muskoka they actually finished second. So it was the PC, the Greens, and then the NDP. So they had some boosts in some ridings for sure.
Right.
Okay.
Next slide.
Awesome. Next slide.
So just to show you, so the Liberals really won the majority by taking away PC seats. So they took away some NDP seats. They took away 3. They also lost 2 seats to the NDP. One was in Windsor West. That was the one where some of our members live, and then the other was in Sudbury.
Okay.
The PCs, they lost mainly due to the Liberals. They lost 1 seat to the NDP, and the NDP, even though they lost 3 seats, they gained 3 others. So that's why they were able to stay level.
So they gained 3. They lost 3, but they gained 3.
Exactly. So they stayed essentially the same number of seats, but they took some areas they didn't win, and they lost. The 3 main ones they lost were in Toronto.
In Toronto.
In Toronto, they lost to the Liberals. People voted Liberal who may have voted NDP in the past, likely because of fear of Hudak.
Well, how do you feel about Hudak stepping down now? He said he was going to cut what? It was 100,000 jobs, and he only cut 1 apparently, his own. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Well,
really?
I mean,
the biggest one.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that he had to step down. Clearly,
absolutely.
Like, he couldn't deliver what his party wanted.
My.
Well,
So as far as 100,000 jobs, though, we'll see now because the budget the Liberals are going to put forward also has very drastic cuts and is going to take away a lot from the public service. So Wynne was really able to prevent any discussion about what she stands for by putting the heat on Hudak. Meanwhile, all the things the Liberals are going to now do and have done really never got discussed across the province. So I think that's one of the reasons why you see that result, that they were able to take PC ridings and come out of it having, with all the scandal and corruption, they still actually got more seats. They only lost 1 MPP, at least that was in Windsor West.
That's crazy.
Well, he definitely shot himself in the foot. If he wasn't guaranteed a position with cutting all these jobs, there wasn't enough people out there. What was there left to do?
Right.
I mean, after that, what are you going to come back and backpedal a little bit, all those jobs and all that money? He was not willing to even invest here at the auto industry level in the city, okay? That keeps us alive. To pull that out is just, just give him enough rope. And then, when you come in bullying people that close to an election, what do you have left after that? If that isn't going to make it or break it right there, I don't think there was an option but to leave. And how I feel personally, I mean, the worst of two evils was Hudak, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
You know, I know this is independently ran, so maybe my position...
It's independently ran, so you can say
know
whatever you want. We are government funded.
And in my heart, I mean, morally, and what I've always believed in is my NDP party, generations, and I believe in what they stand for, the blue-collar worker, and that's what we are here in the city. You know, and that's where my heart always goes. But the worst of two evils, you know, I think the worst one was out. But, you know, I don't think people really see the effects that the NDP has on the city, or even the auto industry for that matter, and how critical it is to keep it here in the city, because the donations and the centers that we keep alive, and the food banks and the unemployment help center and the hospice, and I mean, it's a domino effect, right? So it's
There's
critical.
already food banks shutting down right now.
It's critical to
Really?
keep these places in business, and it's come
Absolutely.
from a lot of donations through the United Way and our local unions here, right?
Yeah.
So they go down. I mean, it's a scary thought, and that's where my heart belongs personally. I have only speak for myself, and people might, you know, let's in order to get one out, to keep one here, so we don't go this way. You know, a strategic voting. I'll just say it. My heart's on my sleeve, and I guess like we spoke earlier, you know, I wake up in the morning and what I believe in, you know, the rest will fall where it may, but I have to be true to me, and that's where my heart always has been. And that's who's gotten me, and that's been my bread and butter, and put me through Ford Motor Company almost 30 years, and my family, and has put food on my table. So I'm true to me, right, and to our communities, and seeing that the work we've done. So
Yeah.
well, you know, sorry, keep on with the questions. I'm getting run off here.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask, what are the results in this area?
Locally. Okay, so I've got some slides for that too.
Locally,
Yeah,
yes,
next one.
locally.
So local results.
Well, we already know what the
So
local
first,
results
this
are.
was our campaign. After we spoke, we actually established a logo. So our campaign was to get out 3. Right? So this was our
this
logo.
is your Facebook picture.
Yep. So
Okay.
get the block majority. We had called on our members and the community to try to get 3 other people to vote to elect the NDP as a way to defeat the Liberals and PCs.
Yes.
The image there is of a woman with 1 and then 3 other people, right? So go to the next slide there, Alex. So these are the pictures.
Perfect.
Our members really, really responded. One of our union locals, the support staff local in OSSTF, started a selfie contest, which I was telling you about. So those are kind of some of the pictures. You can see the one in the bottom right there. It's a whole family that went out, and it says they're educating the next generation. So this was the sense that our members took up, that we're doing this to participate, to have our say, and that they really did it with positive energy. So
Good.
for us, that was a very good result, regardless of the voting outcome and things, was our
Absolutely.
members really having a way to express themselves and be involved. We called every single one who lived in a lot of the ridings at home. We visited their schools to explain to them. The video from this show really got around our members a lot, so that they could have an argument of how to think about the election and then, you know, become actively involved. So
Well,
I
like
think
you
it was
It's a shame that YouTube privatized it, though. They made it private after some point.
I
But
heard,
it's
I
back
heard.
up. It's back up again. So if anybody wants to catch the last show, you can catch it on YouTube again.
And then, so the next slide, now I'll actually go to what were the results locally in terms of like votes and stuff. It was quite significant. This area, so in general, the vote for the all the votes for the Liberals and PCs went down by 30,000. All the votes in all the ridings where our members live, which is Windsor West, Windsor-Tecumseh, Essex, and Chatham-Kent, Essex, the vote for everything other than the Liberals and PCs went up by 33,000.
Wow.
So it really was a statement against the Liberals and PCs and what they stood for in terms of attacks on workers. And you can see that in the results.
33,000. That's like a
So it was a definite shift. The votes for Liberals and PCs went down. If we added them up across all the ridings, and the majority was for the NDP, but also the small parties also got a boost because people were basically saying we're not going to vote for the Liberals and PCs. So
And I'm doing a happy dance inside as you're saying this, eh?
yeah.
Doing the happy dance.
And then the next slide, well, actually, we can go riding by riding. We can start with Windsor West.
Okay.
So in Windsor West, the Liberals actually lost their only member of provincial parliament in the entire election.
Yes.
Teresa Prusa.
Yes.
Lisa Gretzky won. And you can see the vote for the NDP went up quite substantially there. It was still a close race, but the vote across the board went up except for the Liberals. They all held, but they went down a bit. Windsor-Tecumseh, which is the next riding over. Yeah, next slide. Windsor-Tecumseh, all the votes went up, including the Liberals, PCs, because the last vote was held during a by-election, and usually the turnout is very low, whereas the general election was a bit higher. So that was a big boost as well there. And the next riding, which is Essex, you had a very big boost. For the Alex, you want to next slide? Yep. So the NDP really had an increase of about 10,000 votes, and the majority of our members we know live in the riding of Essex. So we know that our members had a big effect on that, getting them out to vote and actually going, because in many cases, if you think the person's automatically going to win, or it's nothing's at stake, you're not going to vote. Whereas in this case, people really went to the polls, you know, and took a stand. So that was quite good, because that riding is held by the Harper government federally. So it's a big also statement against the Harper government that in a riding that they hold, that this was the stand.
Well, you know what they say, don't assume, right? Every vote does count. I mean, everybody that thinks that same way, or my vote doesn't matter, I don't have a voice, you get about 20 or 30 of you saying the same thing. I mean, it can make it or break it. It brings the percentages up. Like
well, you voting and you bring a friend, right? Or bring two friends. Or
you know what? Make fun. You know, have fun. Have a good time with it, like you did. You know, put a challenge out there of some sort. Get a bus full of people. You know, make an evening out of it. For me, I'm just I'm full of piss of vinegar when it comes to elections, right? Let's go for dinner and let's all go out and vote and do. But
big party, like a surprise party.
It's being Canadian. It's a right.
And I think with our campaign, we were able to give people a reason to vote. Because often you're told you should vote, but if there's not a reason behind it, you may just not, or someone may tell you vote out of fear, and then you may just not vote. Whereas we told our members, vote to make a statement. Even if you don't win or lose, make your vote a statement and get 3 other people. So, and there's one more riding, which was Chatham, Kent, Essex. So we weren't really involved heavily in this riding, but we have members that live there. Okay. It's the next one, Alex, one up there. Yep. Oh, there you go. That's it. So in Chatham, Kent, Essex, we almost defeated a Conservative there. When I say we, I mean the people who lived there, I guess. It was within about 2,400 votes. Ooh. So we think had we really given a push there and been involved there, we could have definitely taken out a Conservative. So that gives us strength for the next time, because that riding is also held by the Harper government. And it shows us that we can actually defeat the Conservatives there as well. So
it's learning, right? It's all learning.
It was a really good experience.
These stats help you learn about what, where, who wants what, and what are people looking at here, right? And deal with it. Go in there. And like you told me earlier about the information, people are just, uneducated. They're not sure, or they've lost hope. They don't feel faith. And by just simply back to basics, talking to your neighbor, just the simplistic things in life, right? Educating them.
Definitely.
Yeah. So for us, the local campaign was a really good experience. Talking to our members, getting our members to talk to their friends and family, and I think that they can have a very positive feeling about the election, because despite the overall result, we didn't want a Liberal majority, we wanted a minority situation, so no party had that power. We know that for next time, if people take up our argument that we did, that we can accomplish that, so if it's federally or the next provincial election. So it gives us confidence that we can actually change something. We can
absolutely, absolutely. So how do you feel your campaign for the Secondary School Teachers Federation went?
I think those selfies really show it, right? Like, regardless of the outcome, the fact that our members really took it up and they took a stand. And for us, it's very significant, because the Liberals and PCs are both saying that they want to attack social programs in order to pay for new infrastructure, pay the debt deficit, pay companies off. So for us, it was important to show that we don't accept that's not the direction we want for Ontario. So no matter what the Premier now says, we can say that at least in this area, it's not in our name. We didn't vote for that. We took a stand for our rights. So that I think gives us confidence, and despite the overall, is a good outcome.
Sitting back idle just don't work. You have a voice, whether you're expressing it. They know how you feel.
Absolutely, I don't know more.
Know too how you feel and can support you. If they were afraid to come out and say so.
And if in Toronto and other places they had taken up our campaign, we know we would have had a minority, so we can just say next time we can do it.
Okay, I have quite a loaded question, but I want to know the answer to this for sure.
Okay.
What do you think of the idea put forward by the Windsor Star, the mayor, and others that Windsor is now in a difficult position because we won't have a direct link to the government because the voters voted out a Liberal incumbent and a cabinet master in Windsor West?
I mean, as far as what the electorate think, I think the results really show that the electorate made their own decision, because the Windsor Star, the mayor, and others really promoted that on the eve of the election, that if the voters vote NDP, or if they vote against the Liberals and PCs, they're risking a hospital, auto sector, other things.
Yeah, I remember that coming out in the newspaper. I read it that the mayor was saying, urging voters to vote Liberal, urging them. So
I think the voters said all that needs to be said. I mean, it's clear that they're out of step with what the voters think. But the fact that the voters, despite that, took an independent position that was against that really shows that they had a solid argument. It wasn't based on fear or whatever. They were voting for what they thought was important.
Right.
I think that the irony is that the Windsor Star was advocating for a Hudak government. They also advocated for a Harper government. Every day they would report the scandals of the Liberals and say that the Liberals should be defeated.
Yeah.
So we actually defeated one in Windsor West.
Right.
And then they say, oh, well, how dare you defeat a Liberal? Now we're going to lose all this stuff. So I mean, if a Conservative had been elected, I'm sure they wouldn't have been complaining. They would have said, now it's great for Windsor. You've got the, workers are now going to have right to work.
Exactly.
But I think it's a result of the fact that the electorate didn't fall into the blackmail. They voted with their conscience, and they took a stand that defended their rights. And I think that it speaks for itself. All the people who said that they shouldn't because of fear, I think this was a fitting response.
Well, we already have a low enough employment rate in Windsor. Like we need to lose any more jobs. Really.
What is it at?
Oh,
to be honest, I need
8
to
or
know.
9%. It's very,
I think
okay.
I think it's like 7.5%.
I think it's lower too.
Yeah, I think it keeps going lower or higher or something.
Higher
and higher. I think it was maybe it was 8.5% last time because I get little news flashes.
Wow.
Well, the other ironic thing is that the Liberals or the Windsor Star was really saying that the gas plant scandal, right, of the Liberals. So what the gas plant scandal was the Liberals using their power to basically cancel these plants in one riding so they could win it and put it in another riding. So now the Windsor Star is saying, well, you should have a cabinet minister in your city so you can do those kind of favoritism things and use the power, right? Yeah. So basically what they're saying is we want the Liberals in because the corruption will help us, but then we don't want the Liberals in federally because we want to have Hudak in, right? So it's a really contradictory.
Well, they talk out of both sides of their mouths. I guess the Windsor Star altogether. For myself, they have a winger of their own. Whether I thought before it might have been right, but I don't know. I think they have their own wing, and whatever is good for, and that's a lot of people, whatever is good for them at the time and whatever. I guess line their pockets or just feed people what they want to manipulate their ideals. Really, that's it. Let's put it out there and let's read it simplistic, just like the right to work. Yay, we got the right to work. Don't mean that whatsoever. The right to work for a lesser wage and pull a scab move with a brother or sister, right, for the same wage. So later on, they move you out. And guess what? You're at the mercy of the corporation.
Now let's define a scab-wound. Now that is someone who is not a unionized worker coming in and working for less without the union. So let's just clear that up because some people don't know what that is. You know what I mean? Like I remember the first time I ever heard of a scab wound. I was like, what's
a scab wound? No,
worker. Sorry, scab worker. It was from Hannah's dad, and he is an iron worker. He's a union, part of the union, and they were losing jobs. A lot of iron workers were losing jobs to scab workers because they were taking these other jobs and not having the safety test, not going through school, less money. You know what I mean? And people want to hire people for that.
I understand also we're in tough economic times and jobs are hard to come by. And I can't fall this blame on the people coming into work. You need a job. You need to provide for your family. I understand that. I'm not closed-minded and a bully at heart completely for unions. I do believe in the human rights of people here. You have to provide and put food on the table. But it's the companies that are doing this dividing in the plant, right? It's him against us, and they're making this animosity inside, and that's why we're falling apart at the wayside here. Don't want to get off topic, but sorry, once again, this was something I kind of jumped in on today.
It's all good. I've got a surprise question.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. How much can we expect out of three main political parties to solve the problem we are in, and how much is it capitalism is just out of control? How much of it is capitalism that is just out of control? Sorry.
So the first part of the question is how
much can we expect our three main political parties to solve the problem we are in?
Well, I don't think anyone believes that any of the parties that are in there are going to solve the problem. because even what they think is a problem and what citizens may think is a problem isn't discussed amongst the people, so that we can all say, okay, this is the problem, now let's solve it. I think that's the biggest problem, that people have really no say in anything. So that problem, I don't think any of them, in their election, there was really no discussion of any substance. It was all fear of Hudak and you know, that kind of thing. So I think that's telling of the fact that it wasn't a the election weren't an opportunity for the electorate to give their views, to explain what they want, and then that to be translated into a government mandate. Instead, it was like a manipulation. So I think that for me, the main problem is that people don't have a say, and that's the main problem. That if the parties address that, then they can advance things, because the parties are made up of probably 0.002% of the population. So yet they can then select who
have the power.
Is in power, whereas the vast majority of people not only don't vote, but don't have a say between elections and anything. So I think that's where there needs to be some reform, some renewal, where the people can actually have a say, whether or not they vote, whether or not they're a member of the party that's in government or not.
So basically, we can't expect them to solve the problem we're in, right?
No, I think it's up to us to solve it as citizens, to take a political stand that we have a right to decide what happens in Ontario, and not let ourselves kind of be told what the only options are. So I think that's the challenge, that how to put forward our own views on what we want, and then organize ourselves to make sure those things happen. So because the biggest problem, they said, is social programs are the biggest problem. That they're a drain on the society. Well, in my opinion as a teacher, it's the total opposite. That social programs like education are an investment. They provide society with a future.
No, we need education.
People need education. People expect the change now, today. This party is going to save the whole economy, and we're going to make changes and jobs, and things are just going to be, you know, this pink cloud they're riding out on. But unfortunately, it's time, right? There's been damage done, and it's a process, and to be patient, but sticking together and being consistent. I mean, it's not just one answer, right? There's so many Band-Aids put on things, and so many untruths out there, and it's just going to take a while, and it's a process to start healing and then working on resolutions, and that's the thing, right? It just doesn't happen overnight.
No, it never happens overnight. So the second part of the question was, how much is it capitalism is just out of control? How much of it is capitalism? Is it just out of control? Dawn, you worded this wrong. Seriously.
God, Dawn.
You read it. How much is it capitalism is just out of control?
I think you said how much of it.
Yeah, that's what I think you meant to say too. How much of it is capitalism?
It's definitely, I mean, the political system is linked to what type of economic system we have, right? So you have a political system where a tiny minority can decide for the majority, and that's linked to the fact that you have an economic system where the tiny majority can control the entire economy, and then everyone else is just supposed to work or be tossed out into unemployment. So I think that system isn't sustainable. It's not like, look, we're not building schools, we're not building universities and building the future. We're closing them down, we're cutting, we're privatizing, we're not going forward. So I think that's capitalism's going backwards. It's not going forward. So I think that regardless of what people think of the system, there's a need to build social projects, to build the society, to build the infrastructure and the communities, not to privatize them, sell them off, have, fend for yourself type stuff. So
absolutely.
Tricky question, but I don't know.
Yeah, the community people involved.
It was a surprise question, right? So
surprise.
Ta-da! So that's all we have right now for our show. We're going to be back in a couple of weeks. Shay's going to have next week off. I'm going to take a little vacation myself. I'm going to be off for a few weeks, but Shay will be back, not next week, but the week after, with the guest. We will be posting it on our Facebook page and stuff like that. And as for me, I need a little bit of rest and relaxation, so I'll be back in a few weeks. I'm going to enjoy putting my feet in the water, in the sand and water.
Thank you guys for letting me join on here.
No, thank you.
Minute, I'm just actually,
you know what? You're a part of the union too, though.
And,
you know what I mean? Like, you have a say as well, right? It's two different unions, and it's important to hear two different views, right?
I'm passionate about this, and this first show, I'm sorry if I just get all wound up here, because this is my home.
No, we need it.
I love Windsor. I love Windsor and the people in it. So.
Okay. So yeah.
Thanks.
So
guys.
Thanks for coming on, Cindy and Enver. And we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Have a great weekend. It's about 105
Happy
outside.
Canada Day, July 4th.
Yeah, Canada Day. Don't drink and drive.
Fireworks.
Peace, peace, peace.
Be safe, be huge.
Go Colombia in the World Cup.
Yeah, there you go.
Keep your stick on the ice.
Have a good week, guys.